All right, welcome everyone. Today we're moving into our third unit, which is political geography. So our last unit was cultural geography. We just did that really quickly in just kind of 1 week. You didn't have a final test for that or a, multiple choice test. You will for this unit. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a place for notes and that you take good notes, and you'll be able to obviously use those notes in the test. So when we talk about political geography, right now I'm just going to go over some brief things, just kind of getting you to think a little bit about political geography. But I'm going to read this quote to you from Russell Schweiwerk, who was on the Apollo 9, which was a space shuttle in 1969. He says, when you go around the Earth in when you go around the Earth in an hour and a half, you look down there and you can't imagine how many borders and boundaries you cross again and again and again, and you don't even see them. From where you see things, this thing is a whole. It's so beautiful. And so what he's talking about is the image of the globe from outer space. And so when we look at the globe from outer space, we don't see all these lines and boundaries and governments and political boundaries and countries that we think about when we think about the globe. We just see the land masses, we see the oceans, see the landforms. But when we get a globe, right, when we see our first globe in class, maybe in elementary school or wherever, this is a lot more common view of the Earth that we see. We see countries that are different colors that are represented by boundaries on a map and labels on a map. And this is what we're really used to. And so political geography is all going to be about the ways in which we politically organize our space. And so as I take a look at this map, it may not be this map, but you're probably pretty familiar with the political map of the world. And every country, like I kind of mentioned, maybe a different color. It is labeled with the country name, maybe the country capital, whatnot. And so we're going to spend some time this unit talking a little bit about how are these boundaries created? Who creates these boundaries? How do they go about creating the boundaries? And then what is the significance of those boundaries? So in our political geography unit, we're going to define states and nations and how they combine into nation states, multinational states, and stateless nations. That will be in the next lesson. Then we're going to help you understand how boundaries are created and analyze a boundary or border conflict. Understand how colonialism shaped current boundaries, and then explain the role of the United Nations and supranational organizations in the world. All right, so in our next lesson, you are going to be taking a look at states and nations, and I'm gonna do that on the next in the next lesson. But for this first assignment, you are going to be opening up this Drawing Political Boundaries assignment, and it's going to be a CAMI assignment. And it's really just going to get you to start thinking a little bit about boundaries. So when you open this up, and I'll have to make sure I have the correct one on here. This is not the correct one. There's some like jumbly words here. So if yours has it, you can just erase those. But in your own words, you're going to start by doing part one. So in your own words, what is a boundary? So you're going to think about, how do I define that? And that's just, you don't need to Google it. You just need to kind of think about a little bit about how would you define that in your own words? And then give 2 examples of reasons that borders are drawn. So then on the following pages, you're going to find a blank map of a fictional piece of land. Okay, so you want to imagine this as a fictional piece of land. And your task is to divide this piece of land into 5 separate countries. The twist is that the land isn't just flat. The land isn't just empty. It has people living in it. It's still fictional, but it has people, and those people have different languages. They have different religions. There's mountains and rivers on this piece of land. And so you're going to get this blank map, and this is where you're actually going to draw. So you're going to use the drawing tool or the markup tool to actually draw some boundaries into this landmass. But when you're making decisions about where to put those boundaries, you are going to have to take into account some features that are already there. So in this next map, we are looking at a map of the languages that are spoken. So you'll notice that it doesn't tell you what the languages are, but each different shaded color is a different language. And so you may want to think a little bit about, do I want to divide up people that speak the same language, or do I want to put a whole bunch of people of differing languages into the same country? So you're going to have to make some decisions based on that. Another way that we see cultural geography on the landscape is religion. And so this is your religion map. And this religion map is going to show you that there are kind of two distinct religions on this land, in this piece of land. This lighter gray and this darker gray. So you're going to want to think about, how do I create boundaries maybe to reflect the religions? And then also that there's some landforms. There's mountains on this side of the landmass, and there's rivers. Sometimes rivers create nice boundaries. So you might want to think a little bit about, can I use this river to create a boundary? And so it's going to be a little bit difficult to do just because you're looking at these all separately. But you're gonna try to use some of these features to divide up your land. So you're gonna draw on this first one. If you have the ability to print out these pages, that might be helpful, because then you're going to be able to look at the pictures all together. Or if you can pull it up in multiple tabs, that might be helpful. But eventually you're going to be drawing on here, and you're going to be drawing what do I want to do? I want to do drawing, right? So you're going to be drawing, like, here's going to be my first country, and I'm going to label this country. So you want to use some of the information that you're given to draw your boundaries. And it's going to be difficult to do. You're not going to be able to put everyone who speaks the same language into their own country, because you can only create 5 countries. So after you've created your 5 countries, then you're going to go to part 3, which is a reflection. There are 5 questions. Answer those to the best of your ability. You do need to talk a little bit about how you used physical features and cultural features, meaning language and religion, when making decisions about how to divide up your countries. And then maybe what effects this will have on the people. So even though this is totally fictional and hypothetical, when you group people together into, with a lot of diversity, or we group people together, in different ways, it's going to have some effects. So let me know if you have any questions on this assignment. This is your first assignment, and I'll see you in the next folder with our second one.